Imagine waking up one morning to find that your country no longer feels like one nation. Your neighbors support one side, your family supports another. Newspapers tell completely different versions of the same story. Every election feels more important than the last. People begin wondering whether words alone can solve anything anymore. That was the United States in the years leading up to the Civil War. When people think about the conflict today, they often picture massive battles, famous generals, and long lines of soldiers marching across open fields. But the Civil War did not begin with the gunfire. It began with disagreements that slowly grew into something much larger. For decades, Americans argued over what kind of country they wanted to build. By the time the fighting started, trust between the North and the South has almost disappeared. New railroads connected distant cities. Factories appeared across the North. Millions of immigrants arrived, looking for work and a better future. New territories opened up in the West. From the outside, the country looked strong. Underneath that success, deep divisions were growing. The northern states and the southern states were becoming more different every year. The north was becoming more industrial. Factories and business employed growing numbers of workers. Large cities continued to expand. The south remained focused on agriculture. Its economy depended heavily on crops like cotton and tobacco. These crops were produced by millions of enslaved African Americans. Southern plantation owners believed slavery was necessary for their economy to survive. Many Northern Americans strongly disagreed. Not everyone in the North wanted slavery abolished immediately, but many believed it should not spread into new territories. Every time the United States gained new land, the same question returned: would slavery be allowed there? Transfer mattered because every new state changed the balance of the power in Congress. Both sides feared losing political influence. Lawmakers repeatedly searched for a compromise. Each agreement delayed the crisis. None solved it. As time passed, fewer Americans believed compromise was still possible. The arguments spread far beyond Washington. Newspapers attacked political opponents every day. Public meetings became more heated. Even churches divided over the issues of slavery. Families found themselves arguing about politics in ways they never had before. The country was becoming divided. Long before the first battle was fought, one of the strongest voices against slavery belonged to Frederick Douglass. Born into slavery, he escaped and became a powerful speaker. He described the reality of slavery through his own experience. His speeches reached thousands of Americans. In 1852, another event changed public opinion. Herbert Beecher Stowe published a novel called Uncle Tom's Cabin. The book became one of the best-selling books of its time. Many readers in the North said it changed how they viewed slavery. Many people in the South believed it presented an unfair picture of their society. The divide continued to grow. Soon, violence followed. In the territory of Kansas, people on both sides rushed to influence whether slavery would be allowed. Fighting broke out between rival groups. Homes were burned. People were killed. Newspapers gave the territory a new name: Bleeding Kansas. The violence shocked the country. Many Americans feared that what was happening in Kansas could soon happen across the nation. Then in 1859, another dramatic event pushed the country even closer to war. A man named John Brown attacked the Federal Armory at Harper's Ferry. He hoped to capture weapons and start a large slave rebellion throughout the South. The plan failed. Federal troops quickly surrounded the building. Brown was captured and sentenced to death. Many people in the South viewed him as a dangerous criminal. Many people in the North admired his determination, even if they disagreed with his methods. His execution increased the tensions instead of reducing it. The country was running out of peaceful solutions. In 1860, Americans elected Abraham Lincoln as a president. Lincoln did not promise to abolish slavery everywhere. The Civil War had officially begun. President Lincoln immediately called for volunteers to defend the Union. Almost overnight, two massive armies had to be created. Most of the new soldiers had never fought in the war before. Everyone expected the first major battle to decide the war. Instead, it taught both sides a painful lesson. In July 1861, the Union and Confederate Confederate army sat near a small stream called Bow Run in Virginia. Many civilians traveled from Washington to watch the battle. Some even packed picnic baskets. They believed they would see a quick Union victory before returning home that evening. At first, Union troops pushed the Confederates backward. Then fresh Southern reinforcements arrived. The Confederate line held. One officer named Thomas Jackson stood fire while others around him fell back. Another general reportedly said Jackson stood like a stone wall. The nickname stayed with him forever. As Confederate troops launched a counterattack, Union soldiers began retreating. The retreat quickly became chaos. The battle ended any hope of short war. In April 1862, a major battle took place near a small church called Shiloh in Tennessee. Confederate forces launched a surprise attack at sunrise. Union soldiers were caught off guard. General Ulysses S. Grant refuses to retreat. The next morning, the Union launched a powerful counterattack. The Confederates slowly fell back. More than 20,000 soldiers were killed, wounded, or missing. The number shocked the country. In September 1862, General Robert E. Lee led his army into Maryland. He hoped a victory in the north would weaken support for the Union. The two armies met near Antietam Creek. The battle lasted only one day. It became the bloodiest single day in American history. Around 23,000 men were killed, wounded, or missing before the fight ended. Lee's invention had failed. His army returned to Virginia. On January 1st, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation officially took effect. The order declared that enslaved people living in Confederate territory were free. The Union was no longer fighting only to preserve the country. It was now also fighting to end slavery. Britain and France became much less likely to support the Confederacy. Nearly 200,000 black soldiers would eventually serve before the war ended. Many faced discrimination. Many received lower pay than white soldiers. Many were assigned the most dangerous tasks. Even so, they fought with remarkable courage. Their service became an important part of the Union victory. By the summer of 1863, both sides had suffered terrible losses. General Lee decided to invade Northern Territory once again. His army marched into Pennsylvania. The two armies met near the small town of Gettysburg. Neither commander had planned to fight there. The battle began almost by accident. For 3 days, more than 150 soldiers fought across fields, hills, and farms. The fighting was relentless. Entire regiments disappeared within minutes. Artillery fire echoed for miles. On the third day, Lee made one final attempt to break the Union line. Nearly 13,000 Confederate soldiers marched across open ground toward Union positions. The attack became known as Picket Charge. Union artillery opened fire. Then came waves of rifle fire. The advancing line began to collapse before reaching its target. The attack had failed. Lee's army suffered losses it could never replace. He ordered a retreat back to Virginia. Almost at the same time, another Union army captured the city of Vicksburg on the Mississippi River. The victory gave Union the complete control of the river. Confederacy was effectively split into two parts. Together, Gettysburg and Vicksburg marked the turning point of the Civil War. From that moment forward, the South spent much of the war trying to defend itself rather than searching for a victory. Yet, Union now had an advantage. It had more soldiers, more factories, and stronger economy. President Lincoln faced General Ulysses S. Grant in command of all Union armies. Grant believed the only way to end war was to keep constant pressure on the Confederate army. In the spring of 1864, Grant began a long campaign against Lee's army in Virginia. The fight became almost continuous. Whenever Lee pulled back, Grant followed. The losses on both sides were enormous. Where Grant kept Lee occupied in Virginia, another Union general was preparing a different campaign. His name was William Tecumseh Sherman. Sherman believed the quickest way to end the war was to destroy the South's ability to continue fighting. In September 1864, his army captured the important city of Atlanta. The victory gave new hope to the North. After leaving Atlanta, Sherman began one of the most famous campaigns of the entire war. It became known as Sherman March to the Sea. His soldiers marched across Georgia toward the Atlantic coast. As they advanced, they destroyed railroads. They burned warehouses. They seized food and supplies. The Confederacy grew weaker with every passing month. By early 1865, shortages affected almost every part of the South. Food became increasingly difficult to find. Many Confederate soldiers lacked proper shoes, warm clothing, clothing, and even enough ammunition. Some deserted the army so they could return to home to help their families survive, but that mission alone could not replace missing supplies or thousands of lost soldiers. Freedom, however, did not immediately bring equality. Many African Americans continued to face discrimination, violence, and unfair laws for decades after the war ended. The Civil War also changed the federal government forever. After the war, the authority of the national government became much stronger. The Union had survived. War also transformed war in itself. Railroads moved armies faster than ever before. Telegraphs allowed commanders to communicate across long distances. Factories produced weapons on an industrial scale. Around 620,000 soldiers are believed to have died during the war. Hundreds of thousands were more returned home with life-changing injuries. Nearly every family lost someone. More than 160 years have passed since the Civil War ended. It decided that the nation will remain united. It ended slavery as a legal institution. It reshaped the relationship between the states and the federal government. It also left wounds that took generations to heal. The Civil War was not simply a fight between two armies. It was a struggle over the future of an entire nation. It showed how political disagreements can slowly grow into open conflict. When compromises became impossible, farmers became soldiers, teachers became officers, families waited years for their loved ones to return. Many never did. The Civil War remains one of the defining chapters of American history. Its lessons continue to remind us how fragile peace can be and how difficult it can be to rebuild a nation once it has been divided.